What's happening, dudes? Welcome back to the channel. This is Duty's Daggers. We are reviewing today the Demko AD20.5 in titanium and 3V. What is that black thing? Hang on. I don't know what that was. But before we get into it, if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and do it. I would really like to get to 1,000 subscribers before Christmas. I think it's possible, so go ahead and subscribe. And follow me on Instagram at duties_daggers as well. So, I absolutely love this knife. I loved it from the minute I saw it in pictures. And it took me a while to finally get this version, which was the one that I really wanted, because they're a little pricey. So, just a little background on Demko. Andrew Demko makes custom knives called, well, among others, the Demko AD20. It's bigger than this one. It's a custom knife, so it is much, much more expensive. But, they come in, titanium and, I don't know what kind of blade steel, S35VN or 20CV or whatever it is. But it's bigger than this, and it's custom, so he hand makes it in his shop. And that was all that was available for a long time. You could not get this knife, and you couldn't get the shark lock unless you wanted to pay a lot of money. And then he decided to do a production run of the AD20.5s, which were smaller. They were made overseas, so they were less expensive. But they were just basically a shrunken down version of the AD20. Let me let my dog out here, as per usual. There he goes. So, I was very happy when the AD20.5s came out, because finally I was able to own a version of this knife that I had wanted for so long. And, before that, nobody could try out this shark lock unless they wanted to pay a bunch of money for a custom. And then all of a sudden, people could buy them. They were $150, and they came in AUS 10 steel or D2, which is the one that I got. And this is it right here. This is my first AD20.5, and I had replaced the scales, but the ones that it came on it originally were kind of like a grivery plastic kind of thing. I don't like that. I don't like plastic on my knives, so I replaced it with this aluminum scale, which is really nice, from OG Goat. So this was my original one, and I freaking loved it. But it didn't quite scratch the itch, because I wanted a full titanium one. Finally, recently, in the last couple weeks, I was able to get one, finally. I had a little bit of extra money. My buddy Jason gave me a decent deal on this guy. So it is used, but he barely carried it at all. It's in really good shape. So I am extremely happy with it. I absolutely love it. I got the shark's foot version this time. The first one I got was the drop point. These are the two blade shapes that you can get the AD20.5 in. They call it a shark's foot, but it's a sheep's foot blade. I don't know why I ever got the drop point. I'm much more of a sheep's foot kind of guy. But I'm glad now that I have this one that I have a drop point, because I have both versions. So, this is a review on this knife, but I will do a couple comparisons between the, this titanium and 3V version and this one that's $150, just in case, maybe you're looking to get this one, or, whatever. So, that's a little history on the knife. Let's get into it. Let's take some measurements. Overall length is 7 3/8 inch. Blade length is just under 3. It's like 2 7/8 inch. The actual cutting edge, though, is about 2 3/4. Closed, we have a length of 4 3/8. And that's going to be a little bit different on the drop point version. Obviously, it's a little bit of a longer blade. I'll just measure this blade for you. The drop point is 3 1/8 inch, and the cutting edge is about almost exactly 3. So there you go. Let's do some quick size comparisons so you can get an idea of how big it is. Let's do the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and the Benchmade Griptilian. Smaller than both. Then let's do a couple Civivis, and then we'll call it good. Civivi Elementum and the Civivi Conspirator. There you go. So it's, the blade to handle ratio might bother some folks with this shark's foot version because it seems like a big handle with not much blade. Personally though, I absolutely love it. I'm going to tell you right now, there's almost nothing that I don't like about this knife. Just get that out of the way. So, as far as its construction, we have full titanium scales, and there's no liners in this thing. So, it's just the titanium, the two titanium pieces here, no milling on the inside, and no liners, which I really like. It's taking apart this knife is really simple. It kind of simplifies taking it apart. It might seem like a complicated knife to take apart, but it's really, really not. You pop out the pivot, you lift this off. You just have to make sure that spring in there doesn't go flying. All you have to do is pull down on the shark lock to get the blade out. It's just really, really easy to take apart. And that's kind of another bonus on this knife is it's not complicated to take apart. So we have the shark lock on the back here. So it's an ambidextrous lock. All the deployment methods are also ambidextrous. We have the deployment slot and the thumb studs. Really cool pivot. It says Demko Knives on that side, and on this side it says Wampum, PA. This one obviously is not made in Wampum, PA, but the original or the customs are. So I just decided to go with that on these two. I wouldn't call it a stone washing on the titanium. It's almost like a bead blast finish on the titanium. I have noticed that it does kind of get scratched up fairly easily. If you get it in the right light, you can see some minor scratching. Personally, I don't care. If you look at my PM2, this thing has a bunch of scratches on it just from use, and I think it's a good look. It's a good worn-in look, so that doesn't bother me. But it is a fact. If that bothers you, now you know. This shark's foot blade is just a perfect blade shape. I can get my index finger right there on top of the tip and just put a lot of pressure into it. The edge is not extremely thin, but it's okay. It's fairly thin. The blade stock is, well, it's not super thin either. This thing is not like the best slicer in my collection, but it definitely slices, absolutely. I really like this blade shape because you have slight belly. It's not a perfectly straight edge. It just looks really good. And the stone washing on this blade is my absolute favorite stone washing I've ever seen on a blade, ever. It is just really fantastic. I don't know how they achieved that. I don't know. Obviously, it was in some kind of tumbler. I don't know what medium they used in that tumbler to get the finish, but it's really unique. I've never seen a stone washing like this. It's just amazing. It looks kind of cloudy. It reminds me of oatmeal for some reason. It's just really, 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 really nice. Let me throw it up against some other stone washing just so you can kind of get a comparison. Let's see here. What do I have? This one's also very good. The stone washing on the Orion Solaris here, but you can kind of tell the difference between the two. See if the camera's picking that up. Yeah, kind of. Anyways, really, really love the stone washing. The pocket clip is not a deep carry clip, but it works just fine. I have noticed that when I'm wearing my Carhartts with those thick pocket seams, sometimes this gets snagged up on it. So I do sometimes have to kind of lift it up to get it into my Carhartts. So if you wear thick work pants, keep that in mind. I did order a deep carry pocket clip for this from Lynch Northwest, and I'm not sure. I'll have to wait and see when I get it, but we'll have to see if this space between the scale and the clip there is a little bit bigger on the Lynch clip. I'm hoping that it is slightly bigger so that I can slip it in and out of my Carhartts easier. But just regular jeans, this goes in and out of the pocket super duper well. No problems at all. It's a very low profile clip, so ergonomically, I mean, you really do not feel it at all. It's like it's not there. We do have a fair amount of body screws here. These 3 pins, are actually securing the shark lock here. Well, actually, 2 of them are. The top one here is the stop pin. But these 2 here at the back are both for the clip, and then you have 1 body screw. So I guess it's really not that much. Almost all pocket clips have 2 screws, and then you have 1 body, and then just these, the stop pin and the 2 pins for the shark lock. Now, just a little side note, OG Goat does make scales that cover up these pins. They make thicker versions of these that actually cover these up. So if that's a thing for you that you want, that's out there. OG Goat makes them. Me, doesn't bother me. Let's see. Yeah, we have 3 barrel spacers back there. The original Grivery version, this version here with the plastic handles, actually came with a large back spacer back in here. Do with that information what you will, but it's there if you get that version. The difference in quality, if you take the stock Grivery version and compare it with the titanium version, the difference in feel of quality is pretty drastic. This one just feels so much more premium, and it is. You have titanium. It's just the sounds it makes are a little bit more metallic and kind of clicky. It feels very good. Also, the scales here are a bit thicker than the Grivery ones. These aluminum ones are basically the same thickness as the plastic, so we can use this as a comparison. You can see the titanium scales are a bit thicker, and I really like that because it just fills out the hand a little bit better. It feels a little bit more comfortable. Like I said, ergonomically, do not feel the clip at all. There is kind of this little section in here between the tip of the shark lock and where the jimping starts. If you put your thumb there, it's not very comfortable. You don't really want to put your thumb right there. So you want to go over that to this jimping, or back behind it if you want. Behind it's kind of awkward. So I would say hammer grip or thumb up here. Same in the choked up spot. Choked up, man, this thing is so comfortable. So comfortable. The jimping extends a pretty good distance out, so even if you're choked up, your thumb is still hitting it, and choked back, your thumb is totally on it. So really good placement of the jimping. The jimping itself, I really like. Typically, I don't like this type of wide jimping. It's just not very grippy, but for whatever reason, they did this correctly, and it is grippy. It is nice and grippy, so... I'm not sure how they do that. It must have to do with the spacing or the deepness of the jimps. So whatever it is, they did it right. The factory edge that it came with is very, very sharp. Kind of a thick edge bevel. That probably has to do with the thickness behind the edge. They put a thick bevel on it to get it a little bit thinner down at the very edge. Action. Extremely good. Now, I did replace the stock bearings with skiff bearings in this one, but to be honest, it really didn't need it. Even without them, it was a completely free swinging blade. I had no issues with the action whatsoever, but I had the skiffs. I actually took them out of this knife and put them into this knife. I had them. I figured I might as well put them in, but the action right out of the box is phenomenal. Same with this version too. As far as like the action goes, I would say that they are very identical. You don't get better action with the titanium. You do get the better sounds, but as far as the free swinging blade and the lockup, they're the same. Speaking of lockup, this thing is solid as a freaking vault, man. It's pretty crazy. A lot of my knives, if sometimes even with Loctite, over enough time, you'll start to develop a little bit of side-to-side play. But not with these. Not with these knives. I've had this one for a few years now. I have literally never had to adjust the pivot. Never. It has been rock solid since the day I got it. Unbelievable. Yeah. Very, very cool. Just another difference. You don't get the cool pivot on the Grivery and OS10 or D2 versions. The stonewashing is the same, so you do get that very, very cool stonewashing on the cheaper versions as well. Pocket clips are the same, as you can see. So, if you want to experience the Shark Lock and you don't have $315, which is what this one was, get the $150 version. It's still an absolutely fantastic knife. You can get this, like I said, in the Shark's Fit version 2. Even before I had the titanium one, this was still one of my all-time favorite knives. So I'm not saying that you need to spend $315 to be able to experience this amazing knife. Really, the difference is, the titanium, you eliminate the liners and the better blade steel on this one. But the D2 on this guy has performed pretty darn well. I've never owned the OS10 version, but from what I hear, it's really not a whole lot to complain about. $150 may seem like a lot for D2 or OS10, but in my opinion, you're paying for the Shark Lock, this amazing locking mechanism, and the machining that goes into it, and just the design in general. So to me, it's absolutely worth it. For some people, it's not. It's just kind of personal preference. Let's talk about the Shark Lock again really quick. So how it works is there's a spring in here that gives this lever tension. It's pushing it up. So when you open the blade, there's like a little hooky deal rubbing against the tang here. It's rubbing against the tang, and then bam, it falls into a little area in here, and locks the blade in place. So to close the blade, you just have to pull back, get it out of that little notch area, and the blade freely swings shut. It's really an amazing way to lock a knife. It's incredible. How many of us could sit down with a pen and paper and design a completely new locking mechanism on a knife? I know I couldn't. So the fact that he came up with a brand new way to lock out a knife, that's just kind of mind-blowing in itself, Think about it. Think about how a brand new way you could lock a knife. It's very difficult, and he managed to make a very, very good one. This is considered to be one of the strongest locking mechanisms out there. I'm not an expert on that. I know some people say that the triad lock is stronger, or I don't know, I forget. But it is one of the strongest out there. So this knife is a very, very tough knife. You have an extremely strong locking mechanism. You have 3V steel, which is really tough and great for hard use. And you have titanium. So it's just it's a hard use knife. It's almost kind of counterintuitive, because at least my brain thinks, you have a nice fidgety knife with a fall shut blade and just buttery smooth action. It can't be super, super duper tough. I don't know why my brain just automatically thinks that, but it's not true. This is an extremely tough knife, and it happens to be one of my most fidgety knives, and most fun knives to operate and deploy and close and open and close. It's just really fun. It's really, 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 really fun. What else can I say? I have a pretty good amount of knives, and this is probably my favorite knife. Um, I love all my knives. You know, I have them. I have them for a reason. It's because I love them. I probably have a top three, and this is absolutely in the top three, if not the top. It's just, to me, it's the ultimate knife. You know, it's tough. It's ergonomically fantastic. Choke up spot. You have multiple deployment methods. It's fun to use. You have an amazing, super strong, very fidgety locking mechanism that is ambidextrous and really easy to use. You have a very cool design. You know, it's unique. There's no other knives that look like this. Maybe similar, but you know, you see a Demko and you know it's a Demko right away. There's just so many good things about this knife, so many. And the same is true for this version too. It's not as tough as far as the blade steel goes. Um, I mean, I guess the handle scales aren't as tough, being the Gravity or whatever scales you put on it if it's not titanium. But realistically, you know, it's not really going to matter. So this also is an extremely tough knife, and extremely good for all those same reasons that I just mentioned. So if you haven't checked out the 8020.5, I know a lot of people have, but if you haven't, just take it from me, you need to. You really need to. You know, even if you can't afford it, you know, it took me a while to save up for this one and this one too, actually. But set aside some money and save up and get yourself one of these. $150 or $315 if you want to go big. You'll love it. I have never heard anyone say that they didn't like their 8020.5. I've never heard it. I'm sure there's people out there, but personally, never heard it. What's not to like, honestly? So, there you have it. That's the review on the Demko 8020.5 in titanium and 3V. One last little note, they do make the same thing but in textured titanium, which is probably the only knife that is better than this one, or at least the only 8020.5 that's better than this one. It's a bit more expensive. I couldn't afford it. Same knife, but you just get the texture on the titanium, which is really nice. But actually, my buddy Diener actually got one, and he said the finish on the titanium was not great. It was kind of like a dark finish on it. The pictures were kind of misleading on Knife Center. They looked like really shiny, or maybe it was DLT. I can't remember. Anyways, he was a little bit disappointed on the finish on the titanium, so keep that in mind too. And yeah, that'll about do it. Thanks for watching, folks. Yeah, subscribe. Let's get to 1,000 before Christmas. I have a Patreon if you want to check that out. And yeah, that's it. See you in the next video. Adios.